Tyler's heart sank as he stood there, stunned by Catherine's response. He had been so sure that a day off together would be just the thing they needed to reconnect, to recapture some of the magic they had seemingly lost in the whirlwind of their busy lives. But Catherine's words hit him like a cold wave, extinguishing the flicker of hope he had been clinging to. In the early days of their relationship, everything had felt effortless. They had been inseparable, drawn to each other like magnets, their connection sparking with a vibrant energy that seemed to light up the world around them. But now, standing in their living room, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, that the foundation they had built their marriage upon was starting to crack. He glanced around the room, taking in the familiar sights. The cozy sofa where they had cuddled up together on lazy Sunday afternoons, the shelves lined with books they had picked out together, the photographs adorning the walls, capturing moments of joy and laughter from their happiest days. But now, everything felt tinged with a sense of melancholy, as if the vibrant colors had faded into shades of grey. Tyler couldn't help but replay the past few months in his mind, searching for clues, trying to pinpoint the moment when things had started to unravel. He remembered the nights when he had come home to find Catherine already asleep, the dinners left uneaten on the kitchen counter, the empty spaces at the table where her laughter used to fill the room. He had dismissed it as the natural ebb and flow of a busy life, convincing himself that they would find their way back to each other eventually. But now, faced with Catherine's indifference, Tyler couldn't ignore the gnawing sense of doubt that had taken root in his heart. Was it something he had done, something he had said? Had he become so consumed by his own worries and insecurities that he had failed to see the cracks forming in their relationship? Or was it something deeper, something beyond his control, lurking beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed? As he stood there, grappling with the weight of his emotions, Tyler realized that he couldn't continue to bury his head in the sand, pretending that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. He needed to confront the truth, to have an honest conversation with Catherine about the state of their marriage, no matter how difficult or painful it might be. Taking a deep breath, Tyler made his way over to where Catherine was sitting, her eyes still fixed on the glossy pages of the magazine in her lap. He reached out, gently placing a hand on her shoulder, feeling the tension coiled beneath her skin. "Catherine," he began, his voice soft but firm, "we need to talk." The weight of the previous night's unease lingered heavy on Tyler's shoulders as he trudged through the morning, his mind consumed by thoughts of his strained relationship with Catherine. Despite his efforts to push the troubling thoughts aside, they persisted, gnawing at him with each passing moment. Arriving at work, Tyler found himself unable to focus, his mind constantly drifting back to the events of the previous day. Unable to bear the weight of his worries alone any longer, he sought solace in the company of a trusted colleague during their lunch break. "Hey, can you listen to me for a moment?" Tyler began hesitantly, his words faltering as he struggled to articulate the turmoil churning inside him. "It's not like I had a big fight with my wife yesterday, but something like this happened. Could it be that she's cheating on me? I mean, there's no clear reason for her to suddenly act cold, right? I can't think of any other reason for her to do that." As the words left his lips, Tyler felt a pang of guilt wash over him, a sense of betrayal at even entertaining such thoughts about the woman he loved. Yet, despite his best efforts to dismiss the notion, the seed of doubt had already been planted, taking root in the fertile soil of his mind. Throughout the rest of the day, Tyler found himself plagued by the spectre of infidelity, his thoughts consumed by visions of Catherine in the arms of another man. Unable to shake the relentless onslaught of doubts and suspicions, he felt himself growing increasingly ill at ease, his stomach churning with a nauseating blend of fear and uncertainty. By the time he left work that evening, Tyler was physically and emotionally drained, his body aching with exhaustion as he trudged wearily toward home. As he stepped through the door, the weight of the awkward atmosphere between him and Catherine hung heavy in the air, suffocating him with its oppressive presence. Without a word, Tyler made his way to the bedroom, his footsteps heavy with fatigue as he shed his suit jacket and collapsed onto the bed, seeking refuge in the cool embrace of the sheets. The events of the day had taken their toll on him, leaving him drained and depleted, his mind spinning, with a dizzying array of doubts and fears. As he drifted into a fitful sleep, Tyler was suddenly jolted awake by the sound of the front door closing, followed by the unmistakable sound of laughter echoing through the house. His heart pounding with a sickening mixture of dread and disbelief, he lay frozen in place, listening intently as the voices drew closer. Then, like a knife through the darkness, he heard her voice, Catherine's voice, mingling with that of a man he didn't recognize. Panic seized Tyler's chest, his breath catching in his throat as he struggled to make sense of the scene unfolding before him. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, Tyler watched in horror as Catherine appeared in the doorway, her arm draped casually around the shoulders of the unfamiliar man standing beside her. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Tyler saw something flicker behind Catherine's gaze, a fleeting moment of surprise quickly masked by a facade of indifference. "Oh, Tyler, what are you doing here?" Catherine's voice dripped with mockery, her tone laced with a cruel edge that cut through the air like a sharpened blade. "I thought you were supposed to be at work." Tyler's mind reeled, his thoughts a jumbled mess of confusion and disbelief. How could Catherine stand there so casually in the presence of another man, as if nothing were amiss? And who was this stranger standing beside her, his presence casting a shadow of doubt over everything Tyler had ever known? As the reality of the situation began to sink in, Tyler felt a wave of nausea wash over him, his stomach roiling with a sickening blend of anger and betrayal. Without a word, he turned away, unable to bear the sight of Catherine's mocking smile any longer, his heart breaking with each painful beat. In that moment, Tyler realized that the foundation of trust upon which their marriage had been built had crumbled to dust, leaving nothing but a gaping chasm of emptiness in its wake. And as he lay there, alone in the darkness, he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Tyler stood there, his world crumbling around him as Catherine's words hung heavy in the air. Nausea churned in his stomach, threatening to overwhelm him, but he fought to maintain his composure, to make sense of the devastation unfolding before him. His mind reeled with a maelstrom of emotions, anger, betrayal, disbelief, each one crashing against the shores of his consciousness with a relentless force. How could Catherine stand there so callously and admit to cheating on him, and with the president of a business partner company, no less? As Tyler struggled to process the magnitude of Catherine's betrayal, his gaze flickered to the man standing beside her, his heart sinking as recognition dawned. It was Jack, the president of XYZ Company, a man with whom Tyler had once shared a professional relationship, never suspecting that he would become entangled in the unraveling of his marriage. "Why?" Tyler's voice was barely a whisper, choked with the weight of his despair. "Why would you do this to us?" But Catherine's response offered no solace, no explanation to quell the storm raging within Tyler's soul. With crossed arms and a triumphant stance, she shrugged off his accusations, placing the blame squarely on his shoulders. "You ignored me," she declared, her words a bitter echo of the love they had once shared. "Jack treats me like a woman, unlike you. Being with him heals my heart." The cruelty of her admission cut through Tyler like a knife, leaving him wounded and vulnerable, his world shattered into a million jagged pieces. And as Catherine spoke of divorce with an ease that left him reeling, Tyler felt a desperate need to stop her, to salvage what little remained of their shattered marriage. But Catherine was resolute, her gaze fixed on Jack as she prepared to leave the room, her words a final blow to Tyler's fractured heart. As they vanished from sight, Tyler was left alone in the silence, the weight of their broken vows pressing down upon him like a suffocating blanket. And as the reality of their shattered marriage sank in, Tyler knew that he would never be the same again. In the days and weeks that followed, Tyler struggled to come to terms with the betrayal he had endured, grappling with the painful aftermath of Catherine's affair. Forced to take a leave of absence from work, to tend to the wounds of his shattered heart, he found himself adrift in a sea of loneliness and despair, haunted by the spectre of what could have been. But amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerged. A chance for Tyler to rebuild his life from the ashes of his broken marriage, to find solace in the arms of a new love, and to forge a path forward toward a brighter tomorrow. And so, with time and perseverance, Tyler began to heal, finding strength in the love of those who stood by his side and the promise of a better future that lay ahead. And though the scars of his past would always remain, he refused to let them define him, choosing instead to embrace the beauty of second chances and the endless possibilities that awaited him on the horizon. Life had settled into a peaceful rhythm for Tyler in the rural haven he and his new wife Ellie had chosen. Surrounded by the tranquility of nature, they embraced the simplicity and comfort that their new life offered. Yet, just when Tyler thought he had left the turmoil of his past behind, fate intervened once again, thrusting him into an unexpected and bewildering situation. On a rare day off, as Tyler wandered alone through the quiet streets of their quaint town, he was startled by the sound of his name being called. Turning around, he found himself face to face with a police officer, a sense of foreboding creeping over him like a shadow. Though he knew he had done nothing wrong, Tyler felt a knot of unease tighten in his stomach, prompting him to comply when the officer requested his presence at the police station. With a heavy heart and a mind swirling with questions, Tyler followed the officer to the station, bracing himself for whatever awaited him there. To his astonishment, waiting for him in one of the interrogation rooms was his ex-wife, Catherine. The sight of her filled Tyler with a mixture of disbelief and dread, his mind racing to make sense of her presence. Before he could utter a word, Catherine launched into a tirade accusing Tyler of stalking her, an accusation so ludicrous, so utterly absurd, that Tyler couldn't help but balk in disbelief. "What stalker? What are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice tinged with frustration and confusion. But Catherine was undeterred, her accusations growing more vehement with each passing moment. Try as he might, Tyler couldn't grasp the logic behind her claims, couldn't fathom how he had become entangled in this twisted web of lies and deceit. It wasn't until a police officer brought in another man, Jack, that the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Jack, Catherine's former lover, and the catalyst for Tyler's divorce, stood before him with a mixture of surprise and disdain, his presence only serving to deepen Tyler's sense of bewilderment. As the police officer explained the situation, Tyler felt a surge of anger rise within him, his patience wearing thin in the face of Catherine's relentless accusations. "I had no idea you two were living in this town," he exclaimed, his frustration bubbling to the surface. But Catherine's dismissive attitude only served to fuel his indignation, prompting Tyler to take matters into his own hands. With the help of Ellie, Jack's sister, and Tyler's newfound love, he was able to prove his innocence and put an end to Catherine's malicious lies once and for all. Grateful for Ellie's unwavering support, Tyler left the police station feeling vindicated, his heart brimming with gratitude for the woman who had stood by his side through thick and thin. As they walked away from the station, leaving Jack and Catherine in their wake, Tyler couldn't help but feel a sense of closure wash over him. Though the scars of his past would always remain, he knew that with Ellie by his side, he had finally found the peace and happiness he had been searching for all along. Tyler and Ellie stood outside the police station, the air heavy with tension as Catherine's accusations echoed in their ears. But before they could respond, Catherine's grip tightened on Ellie's shoulder, her voice dripping with venomous disdain. "Wait a minute, did you really marry that guy?" she sneered, her words laced with contempt. "He couldn't survive in the city and ended up in the countryside. You'll regret marrying such a loser." Tyler bristled at Catherine's words, his fists clenched at his sides as he struggled to contain his anger. How dare she speak to Ellie in such a disrespectful manner? But before he could intervene, a sleek luxury car pulled up in front of the station and out stepped Jack's father, his expression a mask of stern disapproval. "Dad!" Jack exclaimed, his surprise evident as he faced his father's wrath. But Jack's father wasted no time in delivering a scathing reprimand, his voice dripping with disappointment. "You have no right to call me Dad," he retorted, his gaze piercing as he addressed his son. "What disrespectful thing did you do to my daughter and son-in-law?" As Jack attempted to justify his actions, Tyler couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Finally, someone was holding Jack accountable for the pain he had caused. But it was Ellie who delivered the final blow, her words cutting through the air like a knife. "What do you mean you kept saying you could take over the company?" she challenged, her voice unwavering. "Jack's company was doing well, isn't it? If you work hard and expand the business, what were you paying no attention to?" Jack fell silent, struck by his father's accurate assessment of his failings. And as Ellie continued to dismantle his illusions of grandeur, Tyler couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Finally, Jack was being forced to confront the consequences of his actions. With the truth laid bare, the suspicion of stalking against Catherine was successfully cleared. And as Jack's company spiraled into bankruptcy and Catherine left him, Tyler felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Finally, he was free from the curse of his ex-wife and the turmoil she had brought into his life. As they walked away from the police station, hand in hand, Tyler felt a sense of peace wash over him. With Ellie by his side, he knew that he could weather any storm, overcome any obstacle. And as they continued to enjoy their happy days together, Tyler couldn't help but feel grateful for the love and support that had guided him through the darkest days of his life.